My name is Christina Morales. I'm the state representative for House District 145, and Vanessa Guillen was one of my constituents, one of my precious constituents. So today, once again, we gather to say her name, Vanessa Guillen. We gather with her family, her sisters, and those who loved her. Vanessa Guillen was not only a woman, she was a Latina that selflessly sacrificed to serve and protect our country. Almost a year to the day after she disappeared, we still call for change in her memory. We are here to make sure that what happened to her never happens again. We are calling on Congress to pass the I Am Vanessa Guillen Act for continued change in the military, for accountability and justice, and to continue to tell her story so that we will never forget. When a parent entrusts their child to our armed forces, they should never have to worry about their safety. No soldier should face sexual harassment, and no soldier should endure the violence that Vanessa Guillen endured. We must do better for our service women and men, and do more to ensure a safe and respectful space for those who protect our country. For a year, our community has been calling for change. For a year, Vanessa Guillen's family has been calling for change. Our community is strong and our resilience unwavering. We will not stop calling, marching, and mobilizing until there is real change. We will always remember Vanessa Guillen. La última vez que hablé con la madre de Vanessa me dijo, lo único que quiero es justicia para mi hija. I am proud to stand with my fellow legislators in Vanessa Guillen's honor, and would now like to recognize Senator Alvarado, Vanessa Guillen, and the Guillen's family, State Senator, to speak. Thank you.
Good morning, and Representative Morales, thank you so much for bringing us all together. You and I share a passion for this. Vanessa Guillen was our constituent, our fellow Latina, our fellow East Ender, and so it hits very close to home, as many of us from the East End, from the barrio of the East End. I'm Carol Alvarado, State Senator for Senate District 6. I want to thank the family. Although they're making their way here, we know that they will be joining us. To Vanessa's mom, estoy de acuerdo, justicia, justicia para Vanessa. We know that she's watching. I know that this week brings a lot of painful memories, but to the family, your advocacy for Vanessa, for the many other enlisted soldiers is so important. We must not stop telling her story. As we stand here and we're approaching the eve of the one-year anniversary of the disappearance of Vanessa Guillen, I can't help but reflect on how she touched our lives. Although none of us knew her personally, directly, we know that she made such an impact in our lives, and we have been changed by her story. Many of us will not forget the 2 months that she was missing and the military's extremely slow reaction and lack of urgency. We called, we wrote letters, we marched, we protested, we put things on social media to elevate Vanessa. This ordeal opened our eyes to shocking gaps in the Army's procedure, or lack thereof, when it comes to sexual harassment and assault. It revealed a deeply rooted, systemic, toxic culture of sexual harassment. We can do better. We must do better. The military failed Vanessa Guillen, plain and simple. And it's up to us to ensure that we don't fail on our enlisted heroes ever again. That's why myself, Representative Morales, filed pieces of legislation, resolutions to urge Congress to act. I want to thank Congresswoman Garcia and Vanessa Escobar, two of our Latina representatives from Texas, for their leadership. And I want to thank all the legislators behind us because they also did their part, whether it was Niave from Dallas, Anchia from Dallas, Menendez from San Antonio, and so many others that are not here with us today. In addition, we filed a bill to designate a portion of State Highway 3 for you H-Towners, that's Old Galveston Road, as the Vanessa Guillen Memorial Highway. Let us never forget who she was, what she stood for, and her courageous example of thousands of others enlisted soldiers. It is because of her that hundreds of men and women had the courage to come forward and tell their story. Today, we are all Vanessa Guillen. Thank you. And now I'd like to introduce my fellow senator from El Paso, also from the military. And I want to thank him because he went and met with the family. And this is something I know that is very important for him. He's been advocating it. He has been successful in the Senate in passing some legislation related to this issue. Please help me welcome State Senator Cesar Blanco of El Paso.
Thank you, Chairwoman Alvarado. I'm going to move a few of these here. Well, thank you all for joining us. It saddens me to be here today, but we're here and stand in solidarity with the family of Vanessa Guillen, as well as Vanessa Guillen. My name is Cesar Blanco, senator from El Paso. I'm also a veteran. I've served in the military, active duty 6 years, and I've seen firsthand the culture in the military that fails to protect women and men from sexual assault in the military. As you all know, sexual assault, it's not something that's new. It's something that will continue to be a problem until we prioritize the safety of the victims. And we've got to hold the military chain of command accountable. Bottom line is that we've got to change the culture within the military. While the Texas legislature does not have jurisdiction over the United States military, what Texas does have is the largest state military forces in the entire country. And we can lead by example in protecting our military members. That's why I authored, along with the input of my colleagues, over the past 4 years, we've been trying to fight for a bill that addresses sexual assault in the military, specifically in the military forces. Senate Bill 623 establishes a sexual assault response coordinator, also known as a SARC, to provide victims advocacy. It allows cases of sexual assault to be protected outside of the chain of command to the SARC, and it provides a dedicated independent criminal investigator outside of the chain of command under the Texas Rangers. It also provides expedited temporary ex parte protective orders, and it requires the Texas Military Department to submit an annual report relating to sexual assault prevention in response to the legislature. Now, these are all important items, but no bill will ever replace Vanessa. But we've got to honor her, and we have to remember her. So I'm honored to announce that with the blessing of Vanessa Guillen, she allowed us to name the bill so that we can help future victims. The bill has already passed in the Senate. It's over in the House, and we're going to be working with the author, Representative Ina Minjares, who couldn't make it today, to make sure that this bill gets passed. This is important. We've got to do this. We can't ignore this. We have to honor the life of Vanessa Guillen and other victims who have been impacted by military sexual assault. With that, I'd like to introduce a dear friend of mine who's a chairwoman in the House, state representative from North Texas, Victoria Niave.
Good morning. I want to thank my colleagues for being here, Representative Morales, Senator Alvarado, and all of the others that are standing here. In July of last year, I had the privilege to travel to Fort Hood with Senator Blanco, Representative Rodriguez, and others to pray a rosary with the family of Specialist Vanessa Guillen. And I will never forget seeing the hands of her family member that reminded me of my grandmother, with the rosary folded over her hands. And that image to me is the image of so many of our families that are standing here, and so many families across Texas, and a reason that we can connect with the Guillen family. And despite the tears and the sadness over the lost life of a beautiful woman, there was an insurmountable sense of love and community that we experienced that day. The life of a soldier is not their own. It is surrendered to us, to our lives, to our liberties, our protection, to our futures, to the hope that a nation like ours could live beyond her years. And Vanessa Guillen will live beyond her years. In life, Vanessa Guillen swore an oath to protect me and to protect all of us. But in our unwillingness to see the injustices of sexual harassment and sexual assault for what they are, we could not protect her. And there can be no substitute for justice, no relief without peace. There is no rest until women in the military are protected and defended with the full force of our laws. In her memory, we must fulfill the great responsibility of correcting the fate of our nation. And as we see their family, we invite them to come up here and join us.
So come over this way so they can stand up.
Thank you for coming. Thank you. Thank y'all. Thank y'all for coming. I want to stand right here. In Vanessa Guillen's memory, and we welcome the family of Vanessa Guillen, in her memory, we must fulfill the great responsibility of correcting the fate of our nation. In her memory, we take our marching orders to speak until sexual assault in the military is recognized for its severity. In her memory, we filed, in addition, House Bill 2556 to designate September 30th, her birthday, as Vanessa Guillen Day in Texas, and I'm really honored to share with you that it passed unanimously yesterday from the House Committee on Defense and Veterans Affairs, chaired by Chair Richard Raymond from Laredo. If we are to honor her memory and to preserve the privileges given to us by service members like Specialist Vanessa Guillen, we must be worthy of her memory. We must be worthy of her legacy and her bravery. With that, I'm going to pass the floor to Senator Jose Menendez, who is the chair of our Senate Hispanic Caucus.
Thank you so much. Muchas gracias a todos. Se han dicho muchas cosas que son importantísimas y veo varios medios de comunicación latinos aquí. Primero quiero darle las gracias. I want to thank, but I also want to say how sorry I am to the family of Vanessa Guillen. This never should have happened. Antes de que Vanessa se fuera, que no se perdiera, que estuviera, no se encontrara, before she was missing, she told her family that she was being harassed at Fort Hood by one of her supervisors. Our military failed Vanessa. They failed her family. They failed all of us. When our young men and women sign up to serve our country, they sign a blank check to this nation. When they get sent overseas into a theater of war, the families understand the risk. But never should we accept that they're not safe when they're home. No soldier should ever be a victim of sexual harassment or assault and not have a place to turn. For too long, many have been asking for accountability and justice. Justicia. It's a word that translates easily. Unfortunately, it's not as easy to find. There have been numerous brave men and women who've dedicated their lives to serving our country, and they are calling for this change. We owe it to every soldier and every family for them to never have to go through the pain that you're going through, to go through what poor Vanessa went through. Se lo debemos. Es un deber que le tenemos a todas las familias. Her experience, as we know, has become a rallying movement across the country for survivors speaking out against the violent harassment and sexual assault that they have experienced. Her life will not be lost in vain. She is providing courage and bravery to so many. But it is our duty to make sure that we protect all those who follow. What happened to Specialist Guillen and her family must never happen again. As the chair of the Senate Hispanic Caucus, I commit to you on behalf of me and the whole Senate Hispanic Caucus that we will not only fight to pass every measure that is going to be introduced in her behalf and introduced to prevent this in the future, but also encourage the military and the government to use the model that Cesar Blanco's bill has introduced as a model for them to follow. It's not good enough that we do it here. It has to be a way for the whole government to put an end to this. This culture of looking the other way has to end now. Thank you. Who's next? Ahora con placer les presento al representante Rafael Anchia de Dallas, State Representative Anchia.
Sí, mi nombre es Rafael Anchia, soy presidente del Grupo de Legisladores Hispanos de la Cámara de Diputados y quiero nada más ofrecer unos comentarios breves para los medios de comunicación de habla hispana. Si tienen preguntas en español o inglés, también domino 2 idiomas. Primero quiero decir que quiero ofrecer por parte de nuestro grupo de legisladores hispanos nuestro pésame para la familia de Vanessa Guillen por la tragedia. Yo como padre de familia que tengo 2 hijas, lo siento en mi corazón. El tener una experiencia cuando uno pierde una hija es horrible, y el reconocer cómo falleció su hija también duele en los rincones más profundos del alma de una persona. Y como un grupo de legisladores hispanos que somos responsables para nuestra comunidad, queremos otra vez ofrecer nuestro pésame y nuestros sentimientos a la familia que tenemos aquí con nosotros. Tenemos las hermanas de Vanessa Guillen, Mayra y Lupe. Tenemos al padre de Vanessa Guillen, Rogelio, al querido de Vanessa Guillen, Juan, y finalmente a la prima de Vanessa Guillen, Valeria. Y compartimos unos sentimientos muy profundos con ellos. Cuando pienso de Vanessa Guillen, no solamente una persona, pero se ha convertido en un ángel para muchas personas en todo este país y en varios países. Vanessa Guillen no solamente era una mujer con coraje que intentó servir a su país, pero se ha convertido a través de lamentablemente esta tragedia en un símbolo para muchas mujeres, que son las víctimas de violencia de género, violencia sexual. Y ella vive no solamente en los corazones de esta familia y de los legisladores, pero vive en este Capitolio, vive en imágenes, no solamente todo el estado de Texas, pero por todo el país, porque ella se ha convertido en un símbolo de esta tragedia, un símbolo positivo para muchas mujeres que están sufriendo en este país hoy, mujeres latinas que están sufriendo en este país hoy. Y este símbolo y la esperanza que ella da, que las cosas sí van a cambiar para mujeres que son víctimas en el ejército, que son víctimas en sus relaciones personales, que sí van a cambiar las cosas. Pero el reto es de nosotros, los legisladores. Nosotros no podemos permitir que en ningún otro caso ocurra semejante tragedia. Nosotros tenemos que actuar y vamos a actuar en esta sesión legislativa. Le vamos a dar a este símbolo, esta preciosa joven criatura, una plataforma para poder ayudar a miles de mujeres en semejantes situaciones. Así que a la familia otra vez, gracias por su presencia. El reto es de nosotros ahora y le vamos a apoyar con toda nuestra alma. Quiero reconocer también miembros del grupo de legisladores hispanos de la Cámara de Diputados, no solamente a Ana Hernández y Victoria Neave, que ofrecieron comentarios, pero también Marian Pérez, Claudia Ordaz y Penny Morales Shaw. Finalmente, Arturo Fierro de El Paso, que también está presente con su camisa dando honor. Perdóname, y la representante Ann Johnson, que no la vi atrás, de Houston. Así es que ya ven el apoyo que tiene esta familia y ya ven el apoyo que tiene esta causa. Gracias. Y finalmente quiero invitar a la representante de la familia que quiera hacer comentarios por parte de la familia. Por favor, adelante. Y gracias por su presencia.
Muchas gracias. Thank you, everyone, for coming today. This week has been a very emotional week for all of us. Yesterday, we were at Fort Hood, where they did the dedication of the Vanessa Guillen gate. You know, a gate won't fix what occurred, and a gate won't protect all those young men and women serving our country. But it's a symbol that it's happened, it's real, and it will continue to happen without legislation. I want to thank all these wonderful legislators today for doing this, for Vanessa Guillen and all the Vanessa Guillens in the world. This will protect the future girls and women, men and women, that serve our country and the state of Texas. You know, what we show today is we show true leadership. These legislators stepped up and they did something quickly, correctly, efficiently. And we hope that our congressmen and women will do the same in the U.S. Capitol. I want to thank Morales, Representative Morales, Alvarado, Blanco, everyone that came forward and did this for this family. When I called Myra and Mama Guillen and Papa Guillen and Lupe, and I told them what was being done and what was being dedicated, they were all so happy to know that this state, this great state of Texas, stands behind them. And we appreciate everything that everyone is doing to make sure that this doesn't happen again. And I want to thank, more importantly, the family to what they've gone through for continuing to put up this fight, this effort to make sure what happened to Vanessa never happens again to any other man and woman serving our country. Lupe, you want to speak? Myra?
Good afternoon to everyone. Buenas tardes a todos. Primero quiero darle las gracias a los que están aquí y especialmente a todos los representantes que toman cada día de su tiempo para estar con nosotros y pelear por las personas. I want to thank first the representatives that are here today. They're taking their time of their day to come and fight with us. And what I realized yesterday is not only the Army's job to fix these issues, but it's our job as the people, as someone that is here today, alive and in spirit, to speak up with these issues. And for Congress, the Senate, and the President of the United States, it's their job as well. Because those legislations, like these legislations that the representatives just presented, should pass with no doubt. Same goes to the Am Vanessa Guillen Act. Like I said yesterday, and I repeat it, and I keep repeating the same question. When are we going to stop protecting the victimizer instead of the victim? The victim deserves the protection, not the victimizers, not the aggressor, not the predator. Because at the end of the day, the victim deserves the support, social, legal, and their family support. My sister did not have that. And today she has our support. She has been having our support since day one. And I wish every family that's out there will fight the same fight that we're fighting today, because in 2 days, it's 1 year. And my frustration, my anger is the same. Because it's not fair that my sister was murdered the way she was. It's not fair that she went through everything and that she had to be murdered for everyone to realize all these issues. This has happened for decades. I've seen posts about women and men being raped early 2000s. That's 21 years ago. 21 years ago. And it still happens here. And the representative that came before Attorney Natalie Kwam, he made me realize that my sister's here, and I feel her next to me, and I hope that one day she'll be proud for everything that we're doing, not only for her, but for everyone out there. Because when I entered and saw her picture, it reminded me of yesterday, the last day that we saw her alive. So everyone that's here today, everyone that's watching, and everyone that's in the back of me, everyone that's in Congress, in the Senate, and the President, this is not a Republican or Democrat issue. This is not a gender issue, whether you're a man or a woman. This is not a race issue, whether you're white, black, Asian, or Hispanic, because it happens to everyone. That's how we need to use our voice. We need to speak up on this, and we need to create the change, because change has been long overdue, and the only thing that we can do now is pass legislation and hold those accountable. Because the people first, the 90-day commission, is going to take out the same information that we've been knowing since last year. 1 of 2 to 3 women in the military get raped. 18 through 24 incomers that are private first class get sexually harassed. They're seen as statistics to the Army. They're seen as numbers. And one of those people was my sister. She only lived 20 years, and she had plenty to live. Everyone does. So now I'm asking for everyone's support to pass the legislation and to hold those accountable in my sister's murder. And that's why my mom cannot be here today, because it's harder for her than anyone else. Because if you're a mother or you're a woman and you have a child, you cannot even imagine how it feels to my mother. And I cannot even imagine how my fathers feel now, because they told him in front of his face how her daughter was murdered and then dismembered and then burned and thrown like nothing next to a river. So please, like I always say at the end, be the voice and be the change. We might fight for those that cannot speak for themselves now, like my sister Vanessa Guillen.
Thank you so much. Lupe, we will continue to fight for justice for your sister. Yes, please, absolutely.
Sí, buenos días. Quiero decir gracias a a la abogada y a los representantes y a todas las personas que nos han apoyado, a mi familia y a mí. Y no tengo muchas palabras, simplemente les quiero decir gracias a todos. Thanks everyone for support, my family.
Are there any questions?
Question for Senator Blanco. I'll let you get up there. What has been the reaction from the military through the process of you putting your legislation together? What has the military said to you in your conversations about the establishment of a sexual assault coordinator outside of the chain of command?
So it's been mixed throughout the years that we've pushed this legislation. I think the initial response was they were very hesitant. I think the status quo was in place. This is what we're doing is changing the culture. The military does not take the initiative to change its own culture, so we're going to do it for them, at least in the Texas military forces. However, there's a new adjutant general, and she has been extremely helpful. And the Texas military forces have testified in committee and talked about the pervasiveness of sexual assault in the military. And I think that this is the opportunity to do it. It's unfortunate that there's a face to sexual assault, and that it comes to these circumstances that it elevates the issue. And I can't agree more with Chairman Anchia that she's an angel. So my hope is that elected officials, both in the House as well as the governor, support this. This is a measure that will make a huge impact as it relates to sexual assault. But overall, I think Texas Military Department has been working hand in hand with our office to making sure that this is something that's a real solution.
With the federal legislation, and how do those play into each other?
So it doesn't, because as we heard Lupe say, that we need to make sure that Congress passes its own. But Texas has the largest military forces in the country, from state military forces. If we pass this, we're going to lead the country, and other states will look at this and potentially implement this model throughout the state and really push Congress to take action. Congress, from my perspective, has not moved fast enough. How many more women, how many more Vanessa Guillens will there be for Congress to take action? Texas is moving forward in that effort, and with my colleagues, with their input and the input of the family and other victims that have come and testified, we're going to set the example.
Vanessa Guillen and your sister in arms. For me, she's a sister in arms as well. How does that make you feel to know that the military made her family?
They failed us. They failed Vanessa. When the military can't protect its own, who can they protect? And this is something that we're going to change. So the military has failed Vanessa Guillen. The military has failed the countless other victims of military sexual assault. But I think we're very hopeful. And as a veteran who served with people in dangerous places, you rely on each other. But when things like this happen within the chain of command, and the chain of command sweeps it under the rug or makes things disappear, it's an injustice, and it does not help our military. So these are the steps that we're taking to change that culture. Again, if the military doesn't change it, we're going to change it for them.
How will this legislation change that culture? Do you think more victims will come forward afterwards?
I think this gives the opportunity for victims to make the choice. It empowers the victim. It doesn't require the victim to take any action that they're not comfortable with. But it gives them two options. One, it gives them the option to report it to the sexual assault response coordinator privately. They can receive health care, they can receive counseling, they can receive resources. They can also report it to the law enforcement, and law enforcement then investigates outside of the chain of command. This holds that chain of command accountable. Now, the chain of command still has the authority to take action within its own ranks, but this gives victims that option to go outside of the chain of command so that there isn't any repercussions or backlash from their superior officers.
Can you let us know if you've tried to pass similar legislation before and what stopped it before?
So we've been at this for a little over 4 years now. Sometimes the bill was heard in committee, sometimes it wasn't moved for a variety of reasons. And I think also previous leadership in the military department had concerns with the bill. But we've ironed out a lot of that with Texas Military Department. We've ironed it out with the Texas Department of Public Safety, specifically the Texas Rangers that would oversee this. And quite frankly, this is something that local DAs want to prosecute. They want to make sure that they have the opportunity to get these individuals who are inflicting harm on service members, both men and women, and making sure that justice is served.
Thank you so much. Thanks for being here today. Thank you. Oh, sorry. I believe we have someone else who would like to speak from the family. Okay.
I'm here today to really stand up for our children that are right now in our high schools. They're about to graduate. They have dreams. And for those who enlist to the military, and we have to stand up for them to be safe in the military, because at the end of the day, our children are our future, our young adults are our future, and the young adults are the ones who identify the most with Vanessa, and God bless them. God bless all Vanessa supporters. And I want to say, children and young adults, they will never forget. They are our future, and they will never forget what happened to Vanessa. And they never forget that it's still like 1 year since Vanessa disappeared and lost. There's still no answers for the families. There's still no answer for the family, and that is a disgrace for this country. Es una desgracia para este país que después de 1 año que Vanessa desapareció, que mamá de Vanessa perdió a ella de una manera muy terrible, todavía después de 1 año no haya respuestas. No hay respuestas y es una desgracia para este país, una desgracia para nuestros niños, nuestros jóvenes, nuestros niños que están en la escuela, que piensan, que sueñan en inscribirse al Army para servir a su país, Y es una desgracia que se vayan a encontrar con gente que no importa, a lo mejor que les importa más una pieza de equipo que una persona. Y pienso que los niños y nuestros adultos no son estúpidos. Ellos nunca van a olvidar qué pasó.